Hey there, I'm Sabrina. This is my daughter Austin, and I'm going to tell you her birth story. She is 3 months now, so it's been a little while, but I wanted to make a video recalling all the details as best I can before too much time passes, so that I can remember everything that made this experience as amazing as it was. I want to start off by saying I had an amazing pregnancy. I loved everything about it. I didn't have I didn't have morning sickness, or I don't know, there are things that come with pregnancy that are harder than when you're not pregnant, but I just was really happy to be pregnant, and the whole experience was awesome. I did gain upwards of 70 pounds when I was pregnant. That was probably the hardest thing, but like I said, I was just so happy to be pregnant. It wasn't a big deal, and I've lost about 40 pounds, maybe a little more than 40 pounds, and she's 3 months, so that's been pretty nice. That's just from breastfeeding. So when I was about 36 weeks going to that appointment, I remember the nurse telling me that they had me scheduled for an induction on November 11th. Austin was due November 13th. So I was like, what? Why? No, I'm not interested in being induced, especially not before her due date. And she was like, well, we're going to keep your appointment because the schedule's filling up. And I hate that. I hate the idea of scheduling her birth. I really wanted it to happen naturally. It was really important to me to deliver vaginally if possible. I felt I had such a good pregnancy. My body reacted so well. It did everything it was supposed to. I was just thinking my delivery would be the same, and we're really lucky that we have the ability to do C-sections and other interventions, when that's medically necessary, but I certainly didn't want to pursue any of that when it wasn't. So my doctor came in, and I told her I'm not interested in being induced, and she said, well, we can push it out till the 18th, but we need to have that appointment just in case. And there are reasons not to go too long past your due date, but I just wasn't very concerned about any of that, and I felt like there was too much emphasis put on scheduling her birth. And I will say my experience with my doctor wasn't the best. My doctor was recommended to me. She was definitely great at what she did, but I think that it was a really high volume practice. They had a lot of patients, and so I didn't feel like I got a very personal experience. I didn't feel like she was enthusiastic, or she didn't guide me very much. There wasn't a lot of one-on-one, we didn't really connect. I felt like she came in, she made sure everything was good, and everything was good, and she was definitely caring, but it wasn't the experience I was looking for. So I think next time around I'll definitely look into a midwife, or maybe a doula, something like that. So to the birth, she did not come on her due date. My due date came and went. It was November 16th, and I was sitting on the couch with my husband, and I felt a pop inside, and it wasn't painful or anything like that. It was just, I don't know, literally a bag of water popped, but nothing came out. So I was like, oh my God, babe, I just just felt a pop. Like, I'm afraid to, I want to check, but I'm afraid to get up. And he was like, get up. So I got up and I went to the bathroom. And as soon as I, like, got on the toilet, there was a little bit of a gush. But for the most part, it was pretty contained, like, in my panties. And my doctor told me that when my water breaks, like, it's going to be a huge gush, a huge mess, nothing that, like, clothes will contain or absorb. But I felt like it was pretty contained at first anyway. So it wasn't very messy. I called the doctor, and it wasn't my doctor that I spoke with, but I called the doctor and told them my water broke, and they said to go to the hospital, and I asked, do I have time to take a shower? Because I hadn't showered that day yet. And she was like, you should probably just go to the hospital. So I'm thinking, okay, it's fine, I'll shower there. Like, I've had a tour of the hospital already, and there's going to be a shower in my room. So I got there, they tested me to make sure that it was my water that had broken, and it was. But because my water broke, I guess okay, first of all, as soon as I got there, they were talking about starting me on Pitocin because my water had broken, and I had heard a little bit about there being an association between Pitocin and C-section, and I really didn't want that. I really didn't want to have a C-section brought on by something that I caused. So I was like, can we not? Like, can we wait and see if this progresses naturally? So they called the doctor, and again, it wasn't my doctor that they were speaking with, because of course, my doctor was off that weekend. So this was a Friday night, so the doctor said to give me until 6:15 the following morning. So my water broke at 8:15 p.m. We got to the hospital, got seen, and they called the doctor around 9:15, and the doctor said to give me till 6:15. So I was like, I was prepared to fight it at that point, but I just thought it was really important to me to have, like, a really calm and peaceful birth experience. So I said, I'm gonna say okay, and if I have to deal with this later, I'll deal with this later. So they took me back to the birthing suite, and my contractions are starting to increase. As far as an epidural goes, I went into the experience kind of giving myself that leeway to make that decision. I thought, I don't know how intense this will be. I did look into hypnobirthing ahead of time, so a friend and coworker of mine showed me this TED Talk, which I encourage you to look up if you're expecting or you want kids or anything. It's a TED Talk on hypnobirthing, and it was amazing. And from there, I looked more into hypnobirthing, and I think that there are, like, programs or classes you can purchase for hypnobirthing to learn certain techniques, but I didn't go that route, and I might for my next, if I have another. But so one of the main things in regards to hypnobirthing is you're supposed to think of the experience not as painful, but this is what you're built for, your body's made for this, you just relax, don't fight it, there will be less pain if you just kind of submit to the contractions and things like that. So I said, I know I can do this. I will trust myself, though, to make that call in the moment. If I need an epidural, I'm going to get the epidural, and if I feel like I can handle it, then I won't get the epidural. But the most important thing to me was that it was, like, a good experience overall. So with that, I thought the best way to make it my idea of a good experience is I knew I needed my husband there. I knew I needed to feel like I was in control, and I knew I needed like a peaceful environment. So those were things that I knew I needed to do whatever I needed to do to protect that idea. So if that means having an epidural, then so be it. I wasn't like dead set against it, but I also wasn't going into it thinking, okay, I'm just going to do it no matter what, which I know some people make that decision ahead of time. I hadn't committed either way. Well, after a while, so when I first got there, I was probably half a centimeter dilated. After a few hours, I started to, my nurse had that talk with me that they have all moms hear this. Don't wait till the last minute to ask for the epidural. Don't wait till you can't take it anymore, because it may be some time before the anesthesiologist gets here, and he may be in surgery, or whatever the case. So I really stressed about that decision as I started to feel more intense contractions, and my nurse was awesome. She was actually pregnant, but it wasn't her first. She had gone through a hypnobirthing class before, so she understood where I was coming from, what kind of experience I wanted, and how to help me with that. So she really talked me through the epidural decision and gave me the facts and the pros and the cons. And so I wound up getting an epidural when I was 5 centimeters dilated. I didn't know how far along I was at the time, which is one of the things that I was most concerned about, because I didn't know, if I was only 2 centimeters dilated, then I was like, okay, I knew I'd want it. But if I was like 7 or 8, maybe I didn't need it. There was really no way to know. They aren't supposed to check you too often, and they had checked me maybe once or twice before. And another thing the nurse said is she wanted to make sure I was in a good like contraction pattern or something like that, because apparently getting an epidural can kind of throw that off. So she didn't want me to do it too early, but eventually I was like, okay, let's just request it. I got scared, which is something that hypnobirthing is supposed to prevent. It's supposed to help prevent that fear-based labor. They say there's fear-based pain associated with it, which I fully believe in. I think that it started to hurt worse when I got more scared, but I was like, I don't know how much worse it's gonna get. I don't know if I became stressed, once it got to a certain intensity level, I became stressed, and that was like taking away from my idea of what the experience would be. So I decided I'm gonna go for it. She requested it, and I got the epidural. Another thing, I was really afraid of getting an epidural. I had heard horror stories about that. People who have back pain to this day, people who said that receiving the epidural was more painful than labor. I mean, I'd heard some scary things, and I was afraid to get the epidural, but the anesthesiologist was great. I didn't really feel it when it went in, and almost immediately I was relieved of some stress and pain that I was experiencing, probably related to that stress. After that, I got the epidural at 2:15. I was 5 centimeters. After that, I was really able to relax. I got some good sleep to help me prepare to push and things like that. So a few hours went by. Like I said, I was just sleeping, and I can't remember if it was before or after I got the epidural, but I know I got really nauseous and I threw up at some point. Around 7:15, I was asleep. I was woken up by a nurse or two coming in, rolling me over quickly, checking, I don't know, machines and stuff like that. And I stayed calm. They seemed very serious. I stayed calm, but I was like, is everything okay? And they didn't say anything. So within seconds, everything was fine. Right, beeps went back to normal, and they were like, okay, we just needed to roll you over. I think they said that Austin's heart rate was dropping, which I forgot to mention. I never got to take my shower when I got there, because since my water had broken, they wanted to monitor her vitals and make sure. I guess there's certain signs of infection. Once your water's broken after going so long, the baby can develop an infection without like that protection of your water. So they were monitoring her with bands around my tummy, just to make sure nothing like that happened. So no shower for me. Anyway, they came in and got everything under control when the beeps changed, and at that point they checked me again, and the nurse told my husband, we'll call the moms, because she knew that we wanted my mom and his mom there for the delivery. So she said, call the moms, she's 9.5 centimeters. He called our moms. My mom was there like right away, 10 minutes. His mom was babysitting our niece and didn't hear the phone right away, so she had to hurry up and get her home and then come over to the hospital. She got there around 9, but I was still laboring at that point. My mom, though, when she got there, she's kind of big on numbers. When she got there, it was November 17th at this point, and I was in room 1117, so my mom pointed that out to me when she got there. She said, wouldn't it be funny if she was born on 1117, at 1117, in room 1117? And I was like, oh yeah, that'd be crazy. But I thought it was going to happen much sooner, so that was like at 7 something in the morning. So I don't remember what time this happened, but I know both of our moms were already there. You're hooked up to these monitors, and there's volume like associated, so it's measuring her heartbeat, and you can hear her heartbeat in like through this monitor, and you can kind of hear like if she gets the hiccups, you can hear movement, things like that. And there was one point when everybody was there, I felt what felt like the same pop when my water broke, and you could hear it on the monitor. And I said, did y'all hear that? And I was like, I felt like something popped. And actually they had mentioned they thought I still had some foreback, which is like another pocket or like section of your bag of your water that hadn't. I had some foreback that left over from my water, so like there was still something in there. And so it felt the same. So I was thinking, I think my foreback broke or whatever. And just a few minutes later, they came in and told me they were gonna, and it was weird how it happened. It was like literally within like 5 minutes or something, a doctor came in and said that he was gonna pop my forebag to try and like speed the process along. And I said, I think it just popped. And he looked and he said, no, it didn't pop. And so he went, I guess, stuck his hand in to check, I don't know what, and they had this hook that they use, I'm sure plenty of mothers have had this, but they have this hook that they use to pop your water, to break your water, and so they had that same hook to break my floor bag. But before he stuck the hook in, he stuck his hand in to check something, and as soon as he stuck his hand in, there was like a huge gush. He was like up to his elbow, like, oh my god. So it had popped. He didn't have to pop it. He just, I don't know, had to move something. So I thought everybody was laughing at that. He was laughing, everyone was laughing. No one expected that. But when that happened, we found out that Austin had pooped in my belly, which was something that they were also watching for. And I know I was still saying, well, because I had progressed and I had gotten to 9.5, they didn't bring up the Pitocin again. The nurses came in and said that they thought she'd come around noon, and I want to say that was around 10 when they told me that. So after a while, I started to really feel pressure. Now, the thing is, I had already increased my epidural to as high as I could, way earlier in the night, and I couldn't feel anything, but I started to feel pressure, and so I thought, if I can't feel anything but I can feel pressure, it's probably time to push. So I told my husband, go get the nurses and have them check me because, and this was probably around 11, I said, have them check me because I'm starting to feel pressure and I think it might be time to push. They came in thinking, no, she's not going to be ready yet, and sure enough, they were like, oh, we need to call the doctor. So they called the doctor. She showed up very shortly thereafter, and she kind of got after the nurses because she came in and said, how long has she been pushing? And they were like, she hasn't pushed yet. And she said, well, why'd you call me if she hasn't been pushing? You don't need me yet. And then she checked me and she was like, oh wow, you're ready, let's do this, your baby's ready to come out. And she also said something like, you better run to the hospital for your next baby because she's gonna come out quickly. So one thing I forgot to mention, it was right before I got that feeling of pressure, I started to shiver uncontrollably. I was shaking, and my mom was like, are you in pain? Or someone was asking me, it's not pain related at all. I can't even control it. And I think that's normal. I think a lot of people shiver before they give birth, and some people say it's from the pain, and I wonder, is it really from the pain, or maybe it is. But yeah, in my case, I was just shivering uncontrollably. So I started pushing, and within less than 8 minutes, so 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes maybe, she was out. As soon as she comes out, the nurse says the time, and sure enough, it's 11:17. So Austin was born on 11:17 at 11:17 in room 11:17. And as soon as the nurse said it, everyone looked at each other oh my god, was it really 11:17? So that was pretty cool. I felt no pain. I didn't make a peep when I was pushing. It was honestly the most amazing thing. What I did feel was her come out of my belly. I actually felt it in my stomach, and it was just this amazing relief because I was more than 40 weeks and she was 8 pounds, so it just felt so good for her to come out of my stomach. I did have an episiotomy, which I also didn't feel, so that I think helped make it a quick delivery. But it was really just awesome.